Hi everyone, Tim Brown. Welcome back to My Apple Podcast, the podcast that makes a personal connection to everything Apple. In the last episode, I made comparisons between iOS 7 and iOS 6 to examine more closely the changes that have taken place as a result of the new operating system. Using select quotes from Johnny Ive, I also considered some of the philosophical underpinnings that seem to be at work with the new changes to the design, namely eliminating skeuomorphism in favor of a flatter, simpler design. Once again, revisiting the quote by Johnny Ive. We understood that people have become more comfortable with touching glass, so there was an incredible liberty in not having to reference the physical world so literally. We were trying to create an environment that was less specific. It got design out of the way. For those of us who have been following the news that led up to the release of iOS 7, we were well aware of the battle that was underway by Apple to eliminate skeuomorphism, a signature aspect of Apple's software design, which undoubtedly coincided with the termination of Scott Forstall, the designer who laid the foundation for the iOS user interface and is the one generally associated with Apple's use of skeuomorphism. In an article that appeared in Business Insider titled Tim Cook, Why I Fired Scott Forstall, Tim Cook remarked that his decision was due to, quote, my deep belief that collaboration is essential for innovation, unquote. In a nutshell, Forstall could not work with other people and was not willing to admit when he was wrong, as in the case of the release of the Maps app, when Forstall refused to sign an apology. And as you may recall, Tim Cook was the one who would eventually sign that apology and send it out to the public. This team-oriented approach to building innovation is, I guess you could say, it's an honorable way to run a business, particularly one that is as successful as Apple. Cook did not mean that Apple never collaborated before. Rather, with the new changes, the company was taking collaboration to another level, as he put it. Yet Apple's previous innovations, which have become the hallmark of Apple's designs thus far, occurred under conditions that were not always agreeable by Apple's design team. This did not seem to prohibit innovation. So the question remains, is innovation best achieved through unanimity, or does innovation sometimes require a difficult and challenging process of negotiation between competing ideas that lead to the ultimate good of the company? Now, I mention all of this only to understand more fully why Apple equates innovation with the elimination of skeuomorphism, and or why there is the assumption that the consumer no longer requires the need of design elements that reference the material world. I know for a fact that this definitely does not apply to me as an educator who teaches in a museum setting. The experiences that come with engaging with visual representations are essential to how we comprehend the world around us. So I'm not totally convinced about this argument. I also get the sense that Apple's new approach to software design is becoming subordinate or even subservient to design principles that guide hardware design. So tell me, what do you think? Now that you are becoming accustomed to the new iOS 7 interface, do you find that you are gradually getting away from the dependence upon visual representations that refer to the material world that we're all too familiar with? Do you find yourself becoming more engaged with the interface itself as you explore the different functions that come with the new operating system? Or do you miss the visual splendor that comes with skeuomorphism and the way in which it aids the user experience? Thank you for tuning in to another episode of My Apple Podcast. My name is Tim Brown. Check me out next time.